I think we got everybody. We'll go ahead and call Morris County Fiscal Court to order, June 16th, 2020. Brad, you want to lead us in prayer?
Sure. Bow with me. Lord Jesus, we thank you for just the blessing of getting up this morning, seeing your son, breathing your air, God. We just are blessed with this county and this community. God, I pray for each county employee. I pray for the leaders in our county, that you give them the vision that you want them to have, that they seek your guidance and your protection, and that we just ultimately lean on you for everything that we do. We pray for our meeting today, that you guide and direct us, and just your presence be here with us. We pray all these things in your son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first on the guest, Billy Pitts. Good morning, sir.
I think Kathy sent out to everyone, you should probably have that proposal for the taxing district budget for the health department for fiscal year 2021. And also the vote from our board meeting that we had on May 14th for that same budget. And what we proposed at the time, I'm sorry. What we proposed at the time is that we would like to keep the same taxing district rate of 7.25% that we've had for the last several years into this coming year. And all the numbers to support that for FY 2021 are on the documents you have in front of you. And with that, I'm open for any questions you might have.
Questions? I noticed that with the reopening of counties, we have 13 cases. Is that right? Currently?
We went from 36 to 49. It's about a 23% increase in just the last week.
Yeah. All right.
And I don't mind saying, without getting too deep into it, there was a group that all got together and had a gathering, and the vast majority came from that. So that just kind of goes to support that, we should, if possible, I keep mine here with me. If I'm within a few feet of anybody, I wear my mask. I know there's a lot of controversy about that, but the mask does help in some sense, and if we can, let's try to avoid everyone getting together in confined spaces and spending prolonged time together like that. So, yeah, 8 of those cases came from one group.
Are any of those hospitalized?
No.
Billy should probably walk.
As a matter of fact, there's only one that even has a minor symptom, and it was just like a very minor fever that wouldn't even know he had the fever if he hadn't taken temperature. So absolutely no symptoms whatsoever for any of them.
Thank you.
All right. If there's no other questions, we need a motion on the Morris County Health Department Taxing Districts 2021 budget.
Move we accept.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Billy.
Next on our guest, item B, Elena Blevins. Good morning.
Good morning.
Kentucky Lake CVB.
Yes, I have. I sent it all out via email a couple days ago, but there's also I left a paper copy. This is something we do every year. The Kentucky Lake Convention and Visitors Bureau brings and presents our budget. So this is our 2021 fiscal year proposed budget. It's been a rough couple of years. So we've seen some pretty drastic declines in the transient tax over the last 2.5 years or so. So this budget is a pretty bare bones budget. We estimate about a 50% decline in room tax for this upcoming fiscal year. That's after talking to other CVB directors across the state. It's anywhere, all directors are kind of budgeting either a 30 to 50% cut. So, but the board, we will reevaluate this budget in 6 months because hopefully it won't be 50% and we'll be able to kind of reevaluate. So I know I addressed a couple of questions on email, via email, but if there's any other questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those.
In your line on the right, is this the historical comparison to previous months, where it's got like 50% reduced all the
Well,
way down to 25%?
Essentially what I did was I took our past 2 years, and then I also took our worst year from the recession. And I put all those together, and I kind of found a middle number, and then I cut that number by 50%.
Okay.
So these are the numbers after I've already cut that 50%.
Have you all been able to get a handle on the VRBOs and monitor and collect from those?
I think we've made progress. I'm in better communication with them, and I've been able to see the reports, and that's been great. There are several Airbnbs that I think they still need some education on how the transient tax process works. That's an area that we're going to improve on, and it's, you know, the Airbnb and the VRBO, it's a changing landscape. It was growing rapidly over the last few years, and it's really, I think, in a lot of ways altered our destination here. But it has altered sort of the way people travel all across the country and the world, honestly. But with the pandemic, it's actually going to be interesting to see what happens with Airbnbs and VRBOs because the travel industry just came to a screeching halt. It's sort of, I think it's still to be determined as to how it's going to have a long-lasting impact on those types of rentals. But I can say that the ones that we have here, there are a lot that I don't have information for. If you get on Airbnb or VRBO, you can see anywhere up to 200 properties. And we maybe have 20, 30 that I have information for, that have registered and gone through the process. So that when we did the ordinance last year, there's still a lot of ground to cover as far as getting those people to register and to making sure they're educated on how the process and the transient room tax collection works. But that's on our list for the future, and it's a goal to continue to sort of track those down and to monitor that. But I'm the only person left at the office. We've, eliminated all of our staff with the exception of myself. So, and it's a big undertaking because it's not easy to necessarily get in touch with the property owners. There's a layer there it sort of protects them when you go through the sites such as Airbnb, VRBO. It protects the owner's information, and so sometimes it's hard to track these people down. But we're doing the best we can.
You're saying 200?
Yeah, if you just sort of search Kentucky Lake, not all of those may be within Marshall County. But yeah, I mean, depending on how broad of a search you're making, you can see in upwards of 200 locations. So kind of all along Kentucky Lake. I can get a more specific number if you'd like of exactly the ones within Marshall County, because those are the only ones that we could technically try to make contact with, because outside of Marshall County has no effect on us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was our enforcement within that ordinance? I don't even remember. I mean, were there fees, fines?
No,
Do you
there
remember?
wasn't.
No, it was just.
I don't remember any fees being attached. It was
Yeah, I
just,
don't
it was an ordinance that sort of, I think the purpose was to get these people registered so that
I
we would
understand.
essentially have contact information
Yeah.
and be able to start a conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
If you can get address on the property, you can cross-reference that through the PVA. Even if they're out-of-town owner, it'll have their mailing address.
Okay.
Might
Thank
be a
you.
good place to at least send some letters out to them.
Yeah.
Maybe get their attention, call you.
Yeah, that will certainly help.
Have Jason sign it, it'll be,
Okay, more official.
yeah.
We were just discussing the ordinance that we passed last fall, so
Uh-huh.
there is a penalty section in there if those businesses or if those establishments are doing Airbnb and they're not registered with the county. So we'll take a look at that
Okay.
and get back with you, because if you've got roughly 200 and you're saying there's about 20 registered with the county?
Yeah, actually, I have the list. I can sit back there and count the ones that are,
Yeah.
the private ones. And I will say that the ones that are collecting, we have a good relationship with them.
Sure.
They understand, and I don't want to penalize them in any sort of way because they're doing what they're supposed to, and they are helping. I mean, you can't deny that when people travel right now, the idea of staying in a private home it's more inviting than, other locations. So, I'm happy to continue that conversation, the communication with the ones who are collecting, but there's still definitely room for improvement for those who have not yet been able to make contact with.
Okay. On the budget, we need action from the court to approve the budget.
Move we approve it.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Under correspondence, item A, May personnel changes.
May personnel changes. Let's see here. Anthony Albritton, part-time election officer, effective 5/26/20 at $11 per hour per Tim York. Luke Anderson, part-time election officer, effective 5/26/20 at $11 per hour per Tim York. Julie Young, part-time election officer, effective 5/26/20 at $11 per hour per Tim York. Heather Culp, part-time election officer, effective 5/26/20 at $11 per hour per Tim York. Bobby Cole, part-time election officer, effective 5/26/20 at $11 per hour per Tim York. Kenley Edwards, part-time election officer, effective 5/26/20 at $9 per hour per Tim York. Kason Connor, part-time election officer, effective 5/26/20 at $9 per hour per Tim York. Tess Moore, part-time election officer, effective 5/26/20 at $9 per hour per Tim York. Sheila Day, dispatch supervisor, wage increase to $20.16 per hour, effective 5/5/2020. Brian Crawley, termed 5/14/2020. John Townsend, dispatcher, wage decrease to $16.88 per hour, effective 5/5/2020.
Any questions? Item B, this is correspondence. I'm just going to read this. You should have a copy. This is the internet service. Dear Commissioners, we would like to request there be more options for high-speed internet in Marshall County. We live in Tatumsville area, and the only option is AT&T for our family. It is terrible, and all our neighbors feel the same way. We realize in the scope of life and death issues, this is not important, but we have exhausted all known areas to get help and thought we would voice our concerns to you. If there is anything you can do to help the situation, please know you have our support. We believe ramping up this service would also draw more residents into the county. This would be an awesome incentive for those wishing to relocate. We appreciate your time and any help you can be. I know it would be greatly appreciated by many of your constituents. And that's sent by Gene and Sandra Allison. I know my office gets quite a few requests for support with broadband internet service. We have had the director in our region come and speak to the Fiscal Court as far as Kentucky Wired. If you remember, they started in the eastern part of the state, and then they eventually went to the central part, and now they have started on the western part of the state. It trunks through Highway 80 and comes back around into Benton from the north end. So there is progress when it comes to broadband. Obviously, that's not going to solve the internet issue in this county. But that's just another area where I know I get a lot of complaints. I don't know if you guys get a lot of wishes or complaints on the broadband, but internet service is a big demand.
That program you just talked about, is that how Graves County just expanded their internet access over there?
I don't know.
Because I know they had a big program over there, and I had constituents out in Brewers wanting to know if it could come into the Brewers area. I reached out to West Kentucky Telephone. I haven't heard anything back from them, but I just didn't know if that was the program that they went through, or if they, I don't know how they done that.
If it's Kentucky wired, it does go through Graves County. As far as the specific program, I'm not aware of it.
Is that state funding?
Yes. I do know that WK&T, I've had residents notify me that WK&T is telling our residents that the fiscal court has all the money. So I'm making a phone call to WK&T. I don't know why they're telling our people.
Yeah, that's what the constituent reached out to me, and I said, if we got the money, I don't know where it's at.
Yeah.
Nobody showed me where it's at.
Yeah. It's posted. He's going to bring up the map that shows the trunk.
There's a green line between Paducah and the north part of Graves County. That's probably what it is. It's completed. All the yellow ones around are in progress. So you can see right, I don't know if I can zoom in anymore. Right there is that trunk that Judge was talking about. But you see this one right here is completed. So that's probably what they're talking about with Graves County getting service before us.
That's becoming more and more critical. We have people contact us and looking to buy a home in the county, and with more and more people working from home, that is a necessity. That's definitely top of their search criteria in a lot of cases.
I just wanted to inform the court on that, so that they do have some more trunk lines to complete. Hopefully it'll help in parts of our county, but you may be getting more phone calls as those projects are being completed. Is Casey here for the building code?
I think he was coming for the budget workshop. I can see if he's in there.
Well, the building code enforcement, is that what?
It's that correspondence.
We'll go to item C under correspondence. This is from Bill Gibson to the Morris County Fiscal Court. The members of the Morris County Building Code Enforcement Board convened on June 4th, 2020 in order to review and discuss the proposed budget for the operation of the building and electrical office. Upon review, it is our belief that a budget shortfall may be anticipated in fee receipts. Consequently, this would lead to not being able to cover the operating cost of the office. The building office operates on a fee-based model generated from the building and electrical permits. The contracts the fiscal court approves allows for 20% of the collected fees to be allocated for the operation of the office. The anticipated cost of operating the office is approximately $52,000. Based on our historical records, this does not include the cost of inspectors. This is the cost to operate the office only. Given the 80-20 model approved by the fiscal court, the budget for total receipts will need to be $260,000, not $143,300, as indicated by the first reading of the budget. In previous years, the office has been able to operate on the fees collected and has not required additional funding from outside sources. Our current mechanism that is in place to subsidize the projected shortfall is the interlocal agreement. The board members have expressed a concern that it may not be appropriate to ask the municipalities we represent to fund the budget shortfall based upon a budget that has not been accurately calculated due to the contract terms for inspection services developed and engaged by the fiscal court. As to the projections of receipts for fiscal year 2021, it is the opinion of this board that the residential work within the county will remain unchanged from previous years, but a reduction is expected in commercial and the associated electrical. How much of a reduction is unknown. However, the COVID-19 shutdowns are anticipated to have an adverse effect on the commercial construction market for the next several months to year. As the appointed board members, it is our responsibility to notify the Marshall County Fiscal Court and the municipalities we represent to the direct attention that results in a budget accurately reflecting the previous yearly cost of operating the building and electrical office. Please let us know if further information is required. Thank you for your time and attention in this matter. It is greatly appreciated. And that's Bill Gibson. He is the Fiscal Court's representative, and he's the chairman of the board. Brad, you sat in that meeting. Can you give us an update on
Yeah.
what was discussed?
So two things were discussed, the contracts with the current inspectors. They feel that probably some adjustment needs to happen on that. Basically, it's an agreement between the fiscal court and those inspectors, and they kind of set that budget, so they felt like they didn't really have a voice in it. So I told them, that's one thing to advise the fiscal court as far as renegotiating those contracts to meet their budgetary needs. The second part was there is a funding mechanism in the ordinance that allows for the municipalities to fund those shortfalls in their budget. So those are the two things that we identified that could be discussed. But at the end of the day, they're kind of tasked with those operations and functioning within the budget that they have. And I think what we presented in the first reading of the budget, it's not going to meet what their receipts are coming in. So that's kind of what they were advised, and then so that's what their letter kind of states.
Do you have any questions on this?
He's going to be here for the budget workshop.
Casey is. Yeah, I think really kind of picking apart those agreements, that's really your only way. The operations of the office are pretty minimal. I mean, your expenses are paying those inspectors. So then there was the discussion of the expanded jurisdiction that we did years ago, so that we kind of stepped in where the state stepped out and kind of took over ourselves. And I think we see the value in that, but there's also a cost in it. So I think that's part of that discussion we can have in the budget workshop.
All right, there's no further discussion. We'll go to old business, approve the minutes, June 2nd meeting.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, lease agreement with the WACPAC. I think we withheld this agreement when we did the last agreements. One of the concerns was their funding. Speaking with council on a totally different subject matter, it is our opinion that they're going to be coming into some funds probably within the next couple of months.
Hopefully.
About, I don't know how much we can discuss of that.
I mean, there's no secret to it.
Okay.
There was a nonprofit that Brenda Searles was a part of in Aurora, and I can't remember the name of it. It was Aurora, I can't, but anyway. Yeah, there you go. Of course, Ms. Searles passed away. All the board members have either moved on, or some of them are also passed away, so that there was money in that account that was just sitting there. And so when Ms. Brenda passed away a year or so ago, because it is a nonprofit, and there's nobody to take that money, the Attorney General's office has the authority under statute to redirect those funds to a similar nonprofit. And so WACPAC would fit that definition.
Okay. So the goal is to get them those funds.
How much
Okay.
is in there?
Yeah,
It's $4,000 or $5,000.
okay. Because I
They
think she
told me,
sent us
yeah.
all something last night saying they couldn't pay the utilities, and that's part of this
And she,
lease.
yeah, and she's aware, to my knowledge, she's been made aware of these monies.
Yeah.
And I know you and I had talked, and when I found that
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
it sounded like it solved their issue.
Yeah, as long as they get the money for the utilities.
So I think Bonnie and the AG's office and the bank are all connected now. So hopefully they can get that squared away.
Okay. Do y'all have any questions on
That
that?
was my only.
This term is pretty much the same as it's the annual term, so if there's any, no further discussion, we would just need an action on this lease agreement.
Move we accept it.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item C, judicial building janitorial. Let's see, we discussed this, we did the bids, and obviously, I think we budgeted 120,000, so, we've got a Magic Steam, morning, sir.
It's Brady Jansen from Magic Steam.
So I'm just going to read this. This is from Magic Steam, bid for judiciary building. Due to the COVID-19, the safety and cleanliness is the utmost importance to us here at Magic Steam. We have created a great plan for the judicial facility to meet and exceed COVID-19 guidelines set forth by the AOC in the state of Kentucky. We know our counties have been struck with budget issues due to the loss of tax revenue. Us, like everyone else, have been forced to evolve and be more efficient in the way we operate. We've devised a well-structured plan with Judge Jamie Jamison that meets all of ALC and COVID-19 guidelines of the Marshall County Judicial Building while staying within the county budget. With extremely positive feedback by the staff and judges at the Judicial Building, we feel like we've done a great job taking over the previous 6 months at the building. I believe we're the only company to ever fulfill all duties outlined by ALC guidelines and will continue going forward. And I would say I would agree with that, and I appreciate that. There's a lot of attention down there. Our bid will include the scope of work outlined in the annual, semi-annual, monthly, weekly, and daily ALC bid packet. Bid as follows: dedicated full-time staff during business hours for cleaning and emergency cleanup, all daily, weekly, monthly, semi-annual, and annually tasks that were required by the ALC. Professional steam carpet cleaning 2 times per year. Professional tile and grout cleaning 2 times per year. Strip and seal tile 1 time per year. Strip and wax VCT 1 time per year. Pressure washing of building and surrounding sidewalks 1 time per year. All cleaning supplies, toiletries, paper towels, hand soap, trash bags, and hand sanitizer provided by Magic Steam. Monthly investment $6,000. We are licensed, bonded, and insured. All employees are background checked and drug tested. We hope to keep our relationship strong with Marshall County. Any questions or concerns, please reach out to Brandon Jansen. So this is the bid at $6,000 a month. We have looked into this, and this is the best option. We do appreciate Magic Steam working with us to facilitate this need. But we have to have some janitorial service with our contract with ALC, and it is within what we have budgeted for this next fiscal year. So
And is Judge Jameson here? He's not here, is he?
I've,
I think, no. But he's,
oh yeah, I've spoken with him, and he is totally supportive of Magic Steam. He didn't want it to
well,
change.
I knew he was that, but he's supportive, he's good with the services
Yeah.
that are.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
as of the last
Talked to
time I
him.
talked to him, it wasn't, okay.
Yeah, he told me it was too.
They
Right.
they've been doing a really
Yeah.
good job.
Yeah, yeah, that's what.
Yeah, we've cut the way we've done the building, because remember before the price was a lot higher, because the full-time person during the day was just a request by the court. So we actually made that to where, because the building was getting cleaned after hours, but now 90% of it's going to get cleaned during business hours. So that eliminates any after hours. So then, we're cutting back labor and everything like that. And I've lowered the price on, the big services, because I do all those in-house. So, I mean, I can do that. So we just did whatever we could to meet what you guys had here in Marshall County.
Appreciate that.
So we would just need action.
I move we approve it.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, you should see item D. This is under old business. We've discussed this. It's been about 2 years since the engineers originally put this together. What the court needs to do is decide which design they want to do. I had Rivercrest go back. The quantities for each design are the same. The prices have gone up over the past 2 years, so you'll see the slight changes in the dollar amount. You should have the associated maps with the line extension, but the court just needs to make a decision as far as what design they want to proceed with. If you remember the last budget workshop, we were discussing the bond monies. These dollars are tied to the bond, or this project is tied to the bond monies. And we were discussing the bond monies for Southwest One and the language that is associated with the bonds, but we didn't identify which project we want to do. You can obviously see that there's 4. Alternate A is 1.5 million. Alternate B is 1.9 million. And alternate B1 is 1.4 million. And then alternate C is 744,000. So that's something that we need to do, is identify which project we want to associate those bonds with. Is there any discussion on that?
Are you meaning doing this today?
Well, it's going to tie into our budget.
I'm not prepared to make a decision on a new project today with everything we have going on. I move we table this.
Maybe you don't understand, Commissioner. We were discussing in the budget workshop moving bond monies for the Southwest One project.
No, I do understand that.
The question that was brought up was the actual bond dollars that were associated with the projects. There's 4 projects, designs laid out. It's hard to make a decision with the bond monies if we don't have the actual design of which project we want to choose. We don't, if it's an issue of just needing more time, we can make that decision at the second reading later in the month, but we do have to make a decision. So we took monies out for a project, and we haven't identified which project we want to choose.
I say we do that. Let's make a decision for the second reading. If he don't feel comfortable making a.
Are there questions? Yeah.
Because if I'm looking at this right, this alternate C, I'd like to know why it's so much cheaper than the others.
The alternate C is the basic one that just goes up and catches both the new facility and the road department, because I know the road department's on a septic system. But that is simply going straight from the plant to the new facility. And if you remember, the court took action to not put in the sewer system that was originally designed because of a line extension that was discussed. The health department told us, we reached out to them, we got a contract, the court's got a contract with AAA to pump out the septic system. We had to get all this worked out before the occupancy rating would be approved by the health department. And this item C was just a basic, that's the $744,000 one. That is just to get sewer to the new facility in the road department. The other three projects, as you can see, go further into, you've got the black line and the red line that shows up on the project. The red line is more residential, and that's gravity fed, so there's potential growth up towards 68 for all that residential area to gravity feed south. And then the black line is obviously going and picking up the park and gravity feeding. You'll see the lift station at the lower end of the park, which the residential area up towards 68 would gravity feed back into the park. So each one of those projects basically extend into residential areas. But for budget purposes, we just need to know which one of these projects, and if we want to table that for further discussion, or if there's any questions or concerns. We're running out of time on this budget, so.
Do you have a motion on the floor, Todd?
No.
I'll second that.
Is it- So we're going to table it to the, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Go on the new business, new hire at E911.
John Townsend stepped down as a dispatcher, and interviews were conducted, and they identified Corey Dunn as a full-time dispatcher at $13.70 per hour.
So this is simply a replacement.
Yes, sir.
Sure. This is a replacement. This is not adding to.
No. Yeah. John Townsend put it as 2 weeks, and I think his last day was Monday, or maybe last week.
Why has that line went up? Why has that line item went up,
What line item?
the 911 salaries? That's why we were wondering about if it was just
Do
a
you want to explain
replacement.
that?
So that was a discussion we had yesterday about the budget. Whenever I went back and did my final formula review and rate review for the salary sheets, there was one person that was not included in the 911 salary table. Why, I'm not sure. I don't know. My assumption is that they replaced someone, and it just did not get changed in that until I caught it on my second review. I really don't know. If you guys wanted me to do more research on how many employees have been in each department over the last couple of years and how it's changed, I can do that for you, if that's something that you all want to look at.
This is bringing the position that was vacated by John, bringing this dispatcher in is at a lower rate than what John was at, so.
I just want to know that it was a replacement.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
Less. I don't,
Absolutely a replacement.
that's my only, because we've had this hiring freeze, and I'm sure there's other departments that, so I don't want to treat 911 any different than
Sure.
I've treated
Sure.
all the rest of these departments.
Sure.
So as long as you tell me that it's a replacement and it's
Yes, sir.
less on the budget, I move to approve it.
Is there concerns from other departments?
Well, I mean, the budget is higher than it was the other day, just based on our discussion. So that was my concern was,
We're
do
not
we
adding.
have an additional hire
Right.
on top
Sure.
of what was there? I mean, I just,
And I can pull up his informational form where it shows he resigned if you want me to. I'll give that to you. Actually, it's sitting on my desk, so. But yeah, this is a total just replacement for a dispatcher. It's not adding in another one.
If it helps, this resignation happened after I found out about it after I corrected the budget, so.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with the change that had already, the correction.
Yeah. And-
I do have a
and-
question. Does the hiring freeze not count if you're replacing the already budgeted
That's a good
officer?
point.
No,
We
Jason?
had to vote.
Because
to
we've been
remove
down
it.
one too, that we hadn't hired because of the hiring freeze. If we can hire, that would be good.
Historically, just a pure replacement has not been treated as affecting a hiring freeze.
Well, good.
Yeah, and 911 historically, there's been an attrition rate of just people coming in and going out within 911. But like Erica was saying, when she found that there was a position that the employee that wasn't added, that was basically an administrative correction to the budget. So I do agree if there are folks out there that, for whatever reason, don't understand why that number went up, it is important for us to clarify that now so that there's not misrepresentation of that. But that is, you got an employee who basically resigned, and 911, it's costing more, obviously, with overtime. That's been the same language for years, is hire employees to fill those positions that are allocated, because overtime will obviously eat up your budget. So I know there was a motion. Was there a second?
Second.
Or I think did we already approve that?
So we
Okay.
don't have to have a separate motion to lift the hiring freeze since it's a replacement. Okay.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance 2017-14 amended. An ordinance amending ordinance 2017-14, whereas the Morris County Fiscal Court wishes to amend 3 sections of the ordinance 2017-14 dealing with rates of the Morris County Sanitation District. Now therefore be it ordained by the Fiscal Court of Morris County, Commonwealth of Kentucky, that ordinance number 2714 is hereby amended to read as follows. Section 5, exclusion of unpermitted discharges into water system or waterway system. Item D, in addition to ensuring that all unpermitted sources of water do not enter in the sanitation district's wastewater system, it is likewise the responsibility of the property owner to ensure that our other unpermitted non-water discharges do not enter wastewater system. These unpermitted discharges include, but are not limited to, garbage, plastic, cloth materials, cardboard, metals, or any other substances of any type of material that would or could cause damage to the sanitation district's wastewater treatment facilities or infrastructure. The sanitation district, in its discretion, has the authority to require property owners to install reasonable prophylactic devices or undertake other reasonable preventative measures to effectively block the unpermitted discharges contemplated by this subsection from entering the sanitation district's wastewater system. Section 9, fees, rates, and charges. Section 9, item D, any public wastewater service charges that are owned to the sanitation district are ultimately the responsibility of the owner of the property to which service is provided. The sanitation district shall have the right and the fiduciary responsibility to use any and all appropriate means to secure payment for its services as provided by law, including but not limited to the right to cut off services on the subject property until all outstanding monies owed to the sanitation district have been paid in full. In pursuing monies that may be owed, the sanitation district may bring an action against the owner of the subject property and/or a tenant who benefited from the wastewater services on the subject property. Item E, notwithstanding in any of the foregoing, the Rate Advisory Committee is authorized to establish a reasonable special rate for an extremely high-volume governmental entity consumer. For purposes of this section, an extremely high-volume governmental entity consumer shall be defined as a public entity supported primarily by public dollars, which introduces, on an average monthly basis, approximately 250,000 or more gallons of flow into the sanitation district's wastewater treatment facilities. The special rate shall be designed to cover the costs related to the duty of the sanitation district to routinely inspect and/or clean prophylactic guards such as bar screens, which may be required to be located on the property of the extremely high-volume governmental entity consumer. That's the amendment to the 2714 order. Are there any questions?
And I was thinking, you told me that that's a document that you and Marty Johnson both, or y'all had a,
Yeah,
talked about
in
it.
regard to the last section that Judge read about the bar screens
Yeah.
and the rate advisory committee,
Mhm.
that's a provision that Marty and I jointly worked on
Gotcha.
together. We met, I think, in February, March, late February, I think.
Yeah.
With some representatives from the school board, and this is the language that we all agreed upon.
Okay.
It's the first time I've ever written the word prophylactic in an ordinance, too.
It was just as uncomfortable reading it in a public meeting. Are there any discussions? If none, we need an action on this ordinance amendment.
First reading.
I'm sorry, it's the first reading, okay. Let's move on to appropriations transfer. We don't?
We don't have any.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
Payment of the bills.
Motion to pay the bills.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Special called meeting for the final reading of the budget. I know we had discussed the 26th for the second reading. We are within 2 weeks of the end of the month and getting our second reading on the budget completed
The 26th.
Friday.
So that would only allow, what's your guidelines on the special called? So like if we didn't pass it at the second reading, what's your 24 hours?
Yeah, you could have, I mean, if you could announce it, it'd be,
We'd have 4 days.
have 4 days.
Yeah. But then we would only have, so,
You'd really only have 2 days
Yeah.
to discuss it Monday, Tuesday, before it had to be passed.
yeah.
I mean, we could come in on a Saturday or Sunday if we had to.
I just want to remind you too, if we have significant enough changes that DLG considers it a major change, then we have to do another first reading. And the rules on that are there can be no fewer than 7 days and no more than 21 days past the first reading to have the second reading. So if we had to have another first reading, we'd have to wait a minimum of 7 days to read it again.
Why would we have another first reading?
If there's any significant, if it's a significant change, I tried to get guidance on, can you give me a dollar figure or a percentage of our budget if it's a significant change? And they don't have anything like that. It's just at their discretion. So if
Well,
they
if
were
it's at
to,
their discretion, then they also have the discretion to waive the 7-day,
I
mean,
agree. I would love for
that's
there to be real
ridiculous.
guidance on
Yeah,
a percentage
I
of
agree.
if your budget changes by whatever, 8% or more, then have a second reading. But there's no guidance like that. I just wanted to throw that out there just in case that happens. You guys keep that in mind.
That's from DLG.
The, speaking with DLG, I mean, you've got counties across the state are in the same situation. Some counties had already approved their budget, then they identified shortfalls within the COVID situation, so they went back and had to redo a budget. The biggest thing here is obviously the situation that we're sitting in is that there are items within our budget that is under discussion. We have to have a second reading with this, if we stick with this current first reading, we have to have a second reading before the end of the month.
Yeah.
If there are significant changes, then we are back to square one. So that's
Yes.
why.
But we don't know what significant changes mean.
Well, and I know, I was on the phone call with Erica too, and, granted, they don't give us a percentage. You know, because 5% for us may be 5% totally different for people. But they don't give us a clear, defined roadmap. What they do is they give training. I mean, there's been ample amount of training for basic budgeting for elected officials, and they talk about these points. That, you know, when this does happen, and this does happen, I think there's one county that didn't get a budget approved, and you're talking that representatives from DLG, the way I understand it, come in an arbitrary situation, and even then, if there's not a budget approved, because we're talking about statutory requirements, there are bad results for the individuals who don't get it approved. And I don't know if that would be correct for criminal.
Well,
or-
years ago, I think this is back in the early 90s, there was a county that couldn't pass a budget, and the circuit judge ended up finding basically the fiscal court in contempt and said, you've got until such and such day to pass a budget or you're going to jail, and they passed a budget, so.
So when as much as we would like to have, I mean, I took notes when we were on the phone with DLG. You know, minor changes are accepted, major changes, as Erica states, we would have to go back through the process. And I can't say enough, when we meet in our budget workshops, we've had several budget workshops, it's important that we don't keep putting things down the road. We have to have the discussions. You know, every time we put something down the road, our window has decreased. But, you know, there are some challenges that we are sitting in when we have less than 2 weeks, or we're right at 2 weeks to get the budget finalized. And I think we can. I'm confident that we can, but it's part of it.
So do you need to look at the 23rd then instead? Is that what you're,
I would almost say maybe shoot for the 22nd or
Second.
23rd and be safe.
okay?
I can Monday.
Okay. What time on the 23rd?
22nd, I think so, he said. Or she said. 22nd or 23rd?
That 22nd or 23rd still gives right at 1 week, which is our minimum.
22nd. Let's do Monday the 22nd.
9 o'clock. Get your beauty sleeping time, Monty.
Do you want to go ahead and schedule a end of the fiscal year meeting while we're talking about scheduling for the 30th?
Well, that's what the 26th was going to be, was the end of the fiscal year. Give her more time. The 23rd, if we're moving the 23rd to a second reading, we can also have a meeting on the 26th for an end of the year, because there's several things that I've put on hold for the end of the year.
Is that, you have to have 7 days though, right? So do we need to move that to the 30th?
I think it all depends on what happens on the 22nd. If it's a significant change, then we'll have to have one either the 29th or the 30th. Or
Yes, we definitely are going to have one at the end of the month, folks. We have to pay bills. We've got other things that we have to do. We're talking about the budget right now. The number one priority right now is the budget. We've got to get this thing resolved. We can't avoid these issues. We have to discuss them and get it taken care of. So the 23rd, if we're going to do the actual budget second reading,
the 22nd?
I think we said
or
22nd.
I'm sorry, the 22nd, at the end of the year, 26th, to pay the final bills, and we can do the 26th. if everyone's fine with that.
Fine.
9 o'clock? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.